the For Dummies series, which I think we've all at some time used. So we have Carrie Rigo, who is a social media consultant. She's also an alumni of IE Sonoma, one of the speakers we had at the first IE Sonoma.
Yeah, and I was in this room last year. I taught at Windsor High last year.
There you go.
So.
And then we have Steve Knox, who many of you have seen around doing some video filming and editing for the film festival and the Steam Showcase. So we've worked with him. He also makes music videos and works on promotions for several different organizations. And we have Sean Ralston, who works for Sutter Health. He is the regional manager for program development for Sutter Health. So can we please welcome all of them to SCOE? So we're going to start with a question that we'll let you answer, and whoever wants to take it first. In communication, how do you get through all the noise? We've got all these different mediums right now and all different ways to communicate. What is your way of kind of getting your message out there? What's your preferred medium, or how do you break through that noise?
That's a small question.
Who wants to tackle that?
Preferred medium. Depends on who I'm talking to. My personal preferred medium is Instagram, just because it's visual and we're all visually wired. But if it's business focused, I'm on Facebook, because that's where everybody is. And if it's corporate business focused, then I'm on LinkedIn. But yeah, again, it depends on who you are. And how I cut through the noise is to leave my phone away from me. Is to strategically, I have something I want to say and somebody I want to talk to and a channel I'm going to do it on, I'm going to put it out. I posted one of those iPads, because every time I come in, the iPad check-in gets better, your system gets better. So I was posting about that, and I hashtagged it, the location, because the new Instagram stories goes by location. So it should pop up in Santa Rosa's Instagram story today. And then I put it down and walk away. That's how I cut through the noise.
I think you have to really kind of figure out what your demographic is, like who you're actually trying to communicate with, because I mean the platforms of communication are kind of endless and they're growing, and Facebook is absolutely king. I mean everything's Facebook, you know, and if you post something on Twitter, if you post something on Instagram, you're still sharing it on Facebook, you know, I mean you're always that way, and you're like you said, the corporate stuff is definitely LinkedIn. But it's really, you know, demographic. I mean all the different apps, all the different platforms is kind of knowing, you know, who your demographic is. It really just depends on, I guess, the client, you know, completely.
Yeah, and I would add too, from a large corporate standpoint, we definitely, just like you said, our platform dependent on what we're seeking. If we're looking at our organization, Sutter Health, we have about 55,000 employees. When we do recruiting campaigns for nurses who are just coming out of school, we actually use Snapchat as a way to reach those eyeballs, because those are the platforms that that somebody who's 20 years old or somebody who's in nursing school is going to. And I think we'll also do our due diligence with making sure we're on Facebook and Instagram and all the digital mediums, but we're, you know, hypersensitive to the demographic. So Snapchat is probably our most effective way to reach people who are between 15 and 25.
That's a huge validation of the demographic aspect. I mean, and for me, I have 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
23, 17, and 14. And they send me stuff, and they use, you know, when Snapchat first launched, they started sending me stuff, and it pissed me off. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I just sent it through Messenger. You know, I mean, why do you make me hurry up and try to screenshot that pic that I want? You know, I mean, just stop it. You know, but and I get it. You know, I kept trying to get them to get on the platform that I'm on, but. And then I kind of understood it, you know, like you have one folder on your iPhone with like 15 different social apps in it, you know, and you're like, which, the kids, the youth, I mean, Snapchat's kind of king for them, you know, I mean, and mostly it's because parents don't play on it nearly as much, it's a lot more interactive.
Now Instagram is burying Snapchat.
Yeah.
Instagram Stories, a brand new function that is stolen from Snapchat. If you haven't noticed, every single platform steals from every single other platform, so it's just the culture.
And Facebook Messenger
so,
too, same thing.
So it's not really a big deal that Instagram stole it, but the big deal is that Instagram is doing it better. They're innovating the technology faster and more effectively than Snapchat is. So just the Stories feature, which is that 24-hour expiration at the very top of Instagram, it goes away after 24 hours. That alone is reaching 200 million daily users, which is higher than Snapchat's daily users. So Instagram's one feature is burying Snapchat, and it might not survive.
Yo, Snapchat won't survive.
No,
We're like,
Yeah.
we know that. I mean, Snapchat will be dead.
You know, it's interesting, Snapchat absolutely won't.
You heard it here first.
Sell your stock. So, you know, Snapchat will certainly not survive our, you know, as large corporate users of how we reach out, and particularly to young people, is it almost reminds me of Elvis Presley in the 50s, gyrating his hips and being the absolute, you know, antithesis of what parents wanted for their kids. You know, it's just the rebellious platform that kids want to be on because their parents are not.
Right.
So it's not a survival mechanism. It's certainly, we use the platform of the day that reaches the eyeballs. But Instagram is Instagram will be here for the long run for sure.
So just because I was down in San Mateo and decided to create this Dummies brand, I like David Letterman, so I did the David Letterman Top 10 Tips, which if you read those books, you would know that's why I did it. So the couple 10 things I wrote down as I was listening, but the key thing is brevity and word economy. So whether it's the subject line in an email, or it's your hashtag, or it's 140 characters in Twitter, just make sure you think hard about word economy. We're in an ADHD society right now, so it's really fleeting. Second thing is, who are you? People want to know who you are. I mean, they need to know why they should pay attention. What's your story? Who are you? What's your voice? What are you asking for them? So make sure you don't forget that you are a person and you need to kind of establish your credibility and why you're asking for whatever you're asking. Humor, really important. Super important to make sure you get people to laugh. When you get them to laugh, they're disarmed. When they're disarmed, they're more open to listening. Visual mnemonics, that little Dummies icon, that was me. It was my hair, I had circular glasses. So mnemonics and icons, emojis. Think about just this graphic world we live in. How you can maybe create something that would just kind of put a sparkle in someone's eye or make them think hard. So visual is really important. When I worked on Madison Avenue, there was 3 key things in communications. Get their attention, motivate them, get their attention, tell a compelling message, and motivate them to action. So 3 simple steps, right? Every ad campaign, every little Twitter, short form programming, kind of those 3 principles. So just keep that construct in mind when you're thinking about communications. And then when I work with the Navy, it's called death by PowerPoint. Really, really be careful. You put your students to sleep. In a corporate world, you put everybody to sleep. So what I say to my team is 1 slide. Executive summary, P&G memo, get to the points, tell them what they need to know before you give them all the facts. This is the outcome I'm looking for. This is the ask I'm making. I'm almost there. In the workforce, Slack. I walk by and someone's Slacker, and I say, is she a Slacker? We don't employ Slackers. No, Slack her. So Slack is this little instant messaging tool, and all these little tools just to be aware of when you're preparing your students for the future. That instant communication is circumventing email as a key point. And then the notion of contextual relevance. Just make sure you understand time, place. Where are they? How busy? So send emails in the morning, not at night. Tuesdays better than Thursdays. Is time and place super important. Don't forget about that. And in the short form economy that I'm in, so we do premium short form. So check out Lightworkers, Facebook, and Insta. You'll see how we tell a story. 3 seconds, 9 seconds, 33 seconds, and 45 seconds, and 3 minutes, and 10 minutes. And it's 2 principles: why care and why share. So super important about that. And then at the end,
why care and why share. That's good.
It's really kind of a construct that makes you think about the old Procter & Gamble memo. Start with the conclusion first. Hit bullets, not narrative. Make sure there's a call to action. Once you're asked what you're doing, because that's teaching, that's business, that's doing a deal. It's all the same kind of philosophy. So just some thoughts to kind of put some kind of like the nuts and bolts of what you're thinking about.
So as these teachers go out and work with their students, and you eventually get those students in your different industries, it's no longer just the communications person that represents the organization. Everybody has some way of communicating. What are the skills that employers and people are looking for from communications? What are the areas that they need to have by the time they graduate from high school or junior college or college to be employable? The things that they're going to represent you well.
Well, just to speak, I work for like 4 different production houses in the Bay Area, and one of them, thankfully, is Petaluma, so it's an easy commute. But I build spots, for TV, and I work for companies like Abilify and Chase, and all these commercials that you see on TV, or social media, which is really where we live, but TV still exists in some weird world. But building spots, and to the reduction aspect. I mean, I love the concept of that, what and why and how to share it. The attention span of people right now is so short, so it's the ability to kind of, put something out there right away that can grab someone's attention and cause them to engage or hook them by the heart. And it's the ability to reduce things as small as possible. It's just small 5-second things, 10-second things, attention. Nobody watches anything that's 8 minutes long. Nobody. I mean, that's nobody. But the skills, are really kind of more just, the drive and the passion, I mean, as far as like, to make that stuff work out of high school and in some of the environments that I work in. I mean, there's, like, even with that film festival stuff, I mean, these kids are already learning how to edit on iPads and shoot with, iPhones and everything else. And to be familiar with just kind of the construct and watching, stuff on social media and replicating, those type of things that they're seeing, that they're already doing, making these little memes, making these little, gifs and stuff. And I guess it's really just being familiar with the pre-production and the post-production side of stuff, which is what they're kind of all being embedded in their DNA with right now, which is kind of cool and scary for the people that I work for, because you have kids that are 14 years old that can do what, there's editors and chairs doing. And I think that's kind of really the thing. It's just kind of arming them with the tools that they can actually really use right now. And video production is just one small aspect of media creation, but I mean, it's like Zuckerberg said a couple years ago, like 95% of the media that we consume is video, and to be able to work with that and manipulate it in any kind of form, there's a constant job source set for them as far as the foreseeable future, as long as they kind of start working with it right now.
I have 2 things that your students need to know before they leave traditional school and are self-taught and out in the regular work world. Half of what I do is consult with businesses like Summit State Bank, the Flamingo, California community colleges. I go in and I tell them what to do. It's fantastic. And then they usually don't listen to me. But then I train their staff how to run social on a daily basis. So when Sutter deploys a new program and they want to teach multiple marketing teams, I might be somebody that they would bring and move from location to location to teach people how to use Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is. And the other half of what I do is teach in traditional school systems. So I'm at Sonoma State in the JC, and I teach my classes like I'm a trainer in the corporate world. I don't use necessarily Professor, Moodle. I do use Moodle, but everything is, this is what your boss is going to look for. This is how you're going to report to your higher-ups. Here are the obstacles that you are going to encounter. So it is very much work-focused versus paper assignment, teacher relationship, Mrs. Rigo, can I know? That's not how this works. That's not how, you're in the real world, let's behave. So there's 2 things I'm noticing that our students don't have. They do not know how to read instructions. Right? Okay, so it doesn't matter how old they are. And I teach middle school Excel for Youth, I teach JC, I teach Sonoma State, undergrads, and extended education. So I've seen every age range. And right around seniors in high school or seniors in college, they start to figure out how to do this. Next year, we're not leaving this to chance. They're not going to get to read their syllabus online. We're going to walk through it step by step. Now, in the corporate world, nobody reads either. I'll give reports. People pay me gobs of money, but they want me to read the report to them. Okay, fine. You're paying me a lot of money. That's the only thing that gets me through reading them. Like, seriously, you want to waste your time? Okay, fine. It's your time. You're paying for it. But being able to get a set of instructions, project outline, and be able to not come up to you and say, but read it all the way through, figure it out as much as you can. So that's a life skill, that's a work skill, and that in communications is really, really important. That here's an objective that we have set out to do, here are the tools we want to use, let's push that as far as we can until we need to have a team meeting to make some decisions. They do need to have their hand held every step of the way. So encouraging them to be free thinkers within some confines and being as independent as possible. That's a huge issue, and that's going to hold them back in the workplace. And the other thing is, I've forgotten it.
Well, I'd like to actually add on what Carrie said, because it's really important. As a large employer, when we get young applicants, we typically find they have a tough time following instructions. And everything now is automated, whether your resumes on monster.com or whether it's you're applying directly for a position with us and the instructions say upload your resume or your CV and click here and do that, fill out this form, we need a copy of we need your social security number, there are a couple things, and we typically find that we get about 25% of bounce rate, which means people leave because they just can't follow the instructions. I just want to reaffirm that. It's so crucial, and we're really finding that in people who are under 25 years old, as opposed to, you think, technologically less astute folks, probably our age, in their 40s or older, actually don't have that kind of trouble when it comes to following the instructions, even though they're technical instructions. The other interesting phenomenon that we're finding is that for people who are under 25, we're finding it's tough for them to stand out. Where I think a lot of folks who are 35 or 45 or 55 know that when you apply for a position with a firm, that you're going to go out and you want to be sensational. You want to follow up with a phone call. You want to say you want a letter afterwards. I think and this is just my supposition, but I think that the minimal amount of work is kind of the bar that is set by folks who are under 25. They say, well, yeah, I applied for the job, I sent the resume, and I clicked the thing, and I'm done. That's it. And I think because we live in this social world, or this highly engaged digital world, I think people forget about that social media, and social means interacting with another human being. So you know what, apply for the job, but follow up with a phone call. Send a letter on paper, God forbid, a stamp, and put it in the mailbox. Because that's the way you stand out. Because the majority of people we find who are under 25 years old who apply for these jobs just do it online, they click, and then they're done. And I think they feel.
Now, this isn't your responsibility, right?
Right.
This is called raising children.
Yeah.
This is a parent's job.
Right.
So parents have forgotten that. They have forgotten that it's not your responsibility to raise their children. And they are not taking personal responsibility for teaching their kids how to shake hands, how to write thank you notes, all that good stuff.
Right.
You could do a handout and send it to the parents, be like, this would be helpful if you would help work on this with your kids. But I remembered the second thing, is the ability to map it out on paper. What's your problem? What do you want to accomplish? Most of the time, when I train people to use whatever these tools are, we do most of our work on paper. Because people want to approach a machine and have the machine solve all their problems. Which doesn't allow them to think critically about all of the different angles of what's happening, because now I'm done and I don't have to think about it anymore. But mapping out things on paper, I was teaching programming teachers at Excel for Youth how to work with students that were really nervous. I said, get them to do as much as you can on paper first, before you sit them in front of a machine. Because we lose all creative thought, I find, once we sit in front of a machine. So paper, pens, interacting in the physical world, mapping out. Robot Turtles is a great example of a game that teaches programming. It's a physical board game. So it doesn't always have to be on the machine. And as much communication work as you can do on paper, the more intensely owned your project is, the more critical thinking happens. So I find I do my best technical work when I'm not using a computer.
So just some notes. Paper, pen, machine. So I'm a hybrid learner.
Try.
So coming from I'm a Bronx immigrant son, and one of 8. So you are really quick at communicate if you want to eat and you want to use the bathroom. So and then the product of Jesuit education. So we look for what I look for, whether it's promotion, recruitment, retention, partners, critical thinking. It's super important that you think through how to get your folks to critically think. Authenticity. Millennials live by it. Storytelling is all about that. How are you authentic? How are your stories authentic? Authenticity is key. BS, there's plenty of them. So you've got to cut through that. Where's the authentic person? How are you presenting yourself as someone who's authentic? OHD is open, honest, direct. If you read Jack Welch's chapter 2 in his bestseller Winning, the dirtiest secret in business is the lack of candor. And conflict avoidance is pretty much psychographic. That is a problem, kills companies. Breeds inefficiency. So open, honest, direct, key, candor, key. Brevity, again, super, super simple. What's the ask? All the time, what's the ask? You told me a lot about your day, your morning, and the dog ate your homework, and you can get here and you're 10 minutes into what's the ask? Why are we here? What's the ask? When I was at Facebook a few months ago, you see these little kind of signs you see in the back of the room that Matt has here, which is done is better than perfect. Okay, super important. We live in a world of speed. Done is better than perfect. If you're teaching, if you're a Virgo and you want to be perfect, it's not going to play in this fast-paced game of business that we live in. And also, the second one that stuck with me at Facebook was run fast and break things. We don't really teach our kids to break things. We scold them for breaking things or follow the rules. So super important. Be a team player. You know, there's no I in team, the old hackneyed saying, but collaboration's key. If you can be a collaborator, that's great. If you can work with a team, that's great. Love the book, How Children Succeed. Anyone read that book? It's from my old neighborhood back in the Bronx, Riverdale. How kids play chess and get out of Brooklyn. How they learn the skills of grit and perseverance and determination. Those are the things I teach our 4 boys that's going to get them through the world I lived in, which is the boogie down Bronx. You know, you have to figure out how to be a survivor, be Darwinian. And last but not least, Bill Gates said this, I will live by this, hire people that are intellectually curious. Super cool.
We're seeing a high level of anxiety in our incoming freshmen throughout college. There's a 40% increase in crisis needs in PTSD.
And Trump as well, as more people go to psychiatrists, therapists.
So that failing and breaking things, it's iteration. So we're constantly the first version's never perfect. I'll do the first version, we'll talk about it. We'll come back, we'll discuss it, we'll make some decisions, we'll widow it down. Iteration 2, iteration 3. So teaching our kids to fail. It's really, really important because they can't handle it at all. They literally fall apart when they fail.
So the group in front of you has a task in front of them. They've created an action plan for what they want to do to change their classroom, change their school in some way, to incorporate more student voice, innovation, and creativity. And later today, they're going to be doing a little showcase at 180 Studios. What is the word of advice you would give them to, how should they convey their message today to others here? And then when they get back to their students or to their parents or the school board or their administrators, what are the key things that they need to do to make sure that their plan goes forward and make sure the message that they send doesn't get in the way of what they're trying to do?
I'm always the first talker. I'm always the first in the dance floor in the buffet line. Okay.
Be direct.
Hey man, get the party started. Speed. I would love to see speed dating for failures. So an idea is as quickly as you can work through a problem. Anybody ever had a boss that had ADD or ADHD? We used to be a personal assistant, and this client was a nightmare because they would read me the to-do list, and then halfway through I'd be like, and then they'd be like, oh, that looks complicated. Let me do it again, but we'll change it. Brevity. Give them a task and set them free. Make them move quickly. When it's done, the project is over, like speed projects. What worked, what didn't work? What are you going to do differently next time? So I think they need a lot of speed. So for you guys, getting out of your own way, getting out of your students' way, I think it's really important that you know what you want them to accomplish, and you give them a set of instructions, and then you let them go. Belaboring your point is confusing those that have lower auditory skills, and keeping it short and sweet, and then working amongst the groups to answer their questions as they come up. That's how I often teach, but I think accomplishing brevity, getting them used to failure and iteration, it also allows for critical thinking in what worked, what didn't work, and getting excited when somebody fails. It blew apart. Yay! Okay, awesome. That looks awesome. That's a disaster. Are you going to do that again? Or are you going to change it next time? So your excitement, your passion about whatever it is they learned, it doesn't matter if it's good or different or whatever it is, that makes the difference. How you react to those kids when they do something at all really tempers how they judge success.
That's it. It's all about energy. I mean, as you can tell, right? I mean, it's energy, right? And it's engaging. We want to be turned on that way, right? So when you can teach the kids that and show them just the excitement, and you get them just excited about it, that's everything. I
They're really tough on themselves that's a dumb idea. I'm like, actually, that's brilliant.
I love dumb
I've never
ideas.
seen that before. And then I'll rap with my students and help them expand the idea and use my own knowledge and then throw some statistics and some behavior and some psychology in there. And they realize all of a sudden, they literally have an idea they could take to market. And they can't believe they're smart enough. They're absolutely smart enough.
Absolutely.
So they just don't hear that enough. We just put too much pressure on them to be perfect, and they're falling apart as a result. So any excitement and passion, and I know it's really hard when you've got that 2 or 3 in the corner that are doing their thing, and they're really throwing you off, but whenever you can engage with those students, because they will carry that with them, but that's what great employers do as well. That's a great project. I'm really glad to see you've done that. I want to see more. Can you show me more and come back to me? So I try and do it as much as possible.
It's parenting. It's
It always
parenting.
comes back to parenting.
It is, but like that STEAM event, and seeing these kids in that, quad, I don't want to call it a science exhibit, it's completely kind of different, but to see these kids come up with these concepts and these ideas that were, for me, I'm looking at it always from the money side. I mean, it's like, I want in on that. Let me do your Kickstarter video campaign, not for like a cut of it. There's some killer ideas out there, and it's really, I think it's really hard for adults per se to really trust or validate the emotion of belief in them, because how can this 12-year-old kid invent this thing that absolutely has a need and become successful when I don't know what the hell they're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The kids are so armed to the teeth with resources and ability right now, and it's just a matter of kind of really, I guess, believing that and giving that a nurturing, cultivation to allow that to kind of just grow and motivate them to keep going with that stuff. I mean, there was a couple there that I still want to try to reach out and be like, oh my God, that was huge. That boxing locks things was like, I'm still every day, I'm like, oh my God, that could be billions, like right now. But I think it's really just kind of teaching the motivation or teaching the passion, and keeping, if you see the kid have a spark in one arena, just kind of keep that flame going, and so someday it'll ignite. And direct too. I think that's kind of the thing as well. Like, the tech that we're all in, we are still missing that human direct element, right? Like that contact, like we were saying. And I don't know how you incorporate that into a project or something like that in the classroom. I mean, but you do see a lot of anxiety. And I see it with my kids all the time, and a lot of that is absolutely based because of the speed of the world that we live in, and because we have this direct connect to everybody at any single second. So we do lose that human contact, we do find ourselves kind of, sheltering and hiding in a dark room.
We're protecting ourselves. Yeah.
Walls, and and it's needed in that way. So something that kind of help create more confidence may be really kind of focusing back to the roots, and just touching somebody, a handshake, And my oldest daughter, she's a product of this county's education system, and she just graduated on the 27th with 2 degrees from the JC here. And last year I got in a big, thank you, I got in a the typical dad, what are you doing with your life? You're 20, come on, when I was your age, and I know I hate that. I hate that, but there's truth to it too, and I had a big conversation with her, and I filled out a resume, I applied online to this place, and I'm like, you can't do that. You have to, there are positions, and again, demographics of job titles and how you actually go about. There are absolutely millions of positions out there right now in the digital world that you don't ever need to engage anybody, and that's a whole different kind of road to go down. But there are still plenty of jobs, and the majority of jobs really that you have to actually go and apply. And then she really has a school that she picked out here in some kind she really wanted to work for. So I applied and sent a resume off, and I'm like, well, that's not going to do anything. You got to stand out. You got to show off. You got to be real. You got to go down there and actually talk to them and see if you can handshake and get a tour and see if it's really and do that. And it was it was a much rougher conversation than that. There were tears. I wouldn't let her leave. We were gonna hash this out. It was much more deep. And we actually didn't talk for a couple weeks after that. And she called me up about 2 weeks later and said she lives with her boyfriend up here in Santa Rosa. And she called me 2 weeks after and said, as hard as that conversation was, Daddy, I really appreciate it. I took your advice and I went in. And I want to let you know I went in a week after, our conversation. And then this was still another week after that. And she called me to say that she got the call back and she got the job because she went in there and actually, shook their hand and really went in there. Old school style, right? You go, hey, I'm Steve, nice to meet you. Let's do this, and I think that's really kind of missing.
So, a couple of thoughts. Great teachers, I think, great leaders inspire confidence. And they set a vision for what the outcome should be, and they relentlessly inspire that individual, that team, to really apply themselves to get after it. So I look at CEOs as chief encouragement officers, chief empathy officers, chief evangelists. That's who you are, right? And it's not a spectator sport. You got to get in and deal with the low self-esteem. You got to deal with it. There's a lot of low self-esteem. You got to be able, whether it's a parent, whether it's a dual household, split, divorce, whether it's disabilities, whatever you're dealing with, it's really you that they look to as the iconic leader to inspire them, recognize them, applaud them, and even celebrate failure, because failure precedes success. That's what you read Built to Last, Jim Collins. It's constant tinkering, constant experimentation leads to breakthrough success, not just here's the plan, go off and come see me if you have any questions. There's no connection with that group. They're like, oh, you don't care about me. Why should I care about this project? So a couple thoughts there. Be accessible, be open. 2 words in brainstorming: defer judgment. Super important. You're not opinionated. You don't conclude. Let the process and journey play itself out. And make sure a couple other rules: that silence is anything but consent. If people aren't nodding or speaking or contributing or asking questions, there's a problem. Okay, the smartest person in the room is not the quietest person. Probably that's the least committed person. The smartest person in the room has got their hand up. Probably driving you crazy, but they're super intellectually curious. They want to dig in. And I think at the end of the day is make sure that your paraverbals, you know what paraverbals are, right?
No.
So paraverbals are, what's this? What am I saying to you when I'm like,
Closed.
Closed-minded, right?
It's for me means thoughtful. Just FYI.
In the selling world, this was always closed off. You can't, once you do this, you push people off.
People will be inspired by the cues they take from their leaders. So just be super important about your tone of voice, your behavior, your finger pointing, your paraverbals, your closed answers. Keep the intellectual curiosity and the dialogue open, and good things will happen.
So we're going to open up to questions from the group here. So if anybody has a question for the panel.
I have a question about communicating with parents who teach first grade, and I've noticed that the parents lives are changing. They don't want to come in the classroom for my brilliant, parenting, how to teach reading. There's less and less coming. And is there a way for me to tell my story, inspire something? It's not a reminder. It's not like come learn how to teach your kid to read isn't inspiring to them. It's not bringing them in. How can I change my story so it's more compelling?
Can you give those lessons in 2 minutes, break them up into small serial videos, and talk to your parents in 2 minutes a week? If you could put it in some kind of small video and send it through an email rather than the email my kid's teacher sends me, it's really, really long, and there's no formatting, and there's no marketing to it, and you've lost my attention. But if you can tell me in a video, I'm much more likely to watch a short video, which you can shoot with your iPhone or iPad.
So make my, that's nice.
Yeah, and sit down once a week, or do several at a time, and meet them out. You're going to have eye-to-eye engagement. They're going to know who you are. They're going to be more likely to come up and talk to you.
And they can do it in their home.
And they can do it from their phone.
Where they are.
Your open and click-through rate is going to go through the roof in the marketing world if you can get them to open your email and engage with your content. You can judge that. You probably aren't using an email marketing tool that gives you statistics on who's opening things up. But those are the things that we would do in the traditional world, and that's what those parents are already seeing. They're seeing those kinds of lessons by video and short snippets.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, also check out, a friend of mine left Facebook and Google in San Francisco, started a little educational company called Seesaw. Is anyone know Seesaw? So a good friend, very frustrated with, the interactions, and how do you keep track of your student, and how does a parent see, wow, Betty's doing great work, didn't know that's really super creative, and can have a real-time kind of interaction. So Carl's in the city, and if you guys ever want to talk to him, happy to facilitate that, because he's always building new enhancements. The other thing, I think the video idea is fantastic, and I go back to empathy. It's like, you've got to show that you recognize Julio or Abby and make it personal, and say, hey, I really need to talk to you about Abby, because there's some genius here, and there's some areas for improvement. And I believe the biggest room is room for improvement, and boy, let's have a chat. Other thing is theatrics, plays, music. Get them in through the Trojan horse of some theater, and then say, hey, can I have a talk with you for a couple minutes? So, bait and switch, Trojan horse, whatever works, but Shane, do whatever in your toolbox is going to get these parents to come on board, because it's a complete insanity that we have such a lack of parental involvement, whether it's drugs, whether it's work, whether it's language, whether it's geography, time. It's crazy, because that's the future of the family unit, that's the future of our workforce, that's the future of a healthy society. So it's your job to break down that wall and tackle, use humor, use creativity, use bait and switch, party, bring in donuts, whatever you need to do, get them in. Once you get them in, close them.
Yeah, and I'd like to add too, on that note, we at Sutter Health, we started an initiative called MD Live, which was a way that nurse practitioners or doctors, when they needed to engage one-on-one with a parent, particularly for a pediatric patient, would say, we really have something important to tell you about Johnny. Have you got an iPhone? And they said, sure. Do you have a minute for 5 minutes? And then they would actually go to the FaceTime app, and they would trick, as it were, the parent of the pediatric patient into a one-on-one using technology chat at the time. So using the MD Live thing, we were able to actually have the doctor or nurse actually see the patient, the parent of the patient, eye to eye, and actually have an interaction with them. So sometimes just saying that I have something really important to share with you, or I have something really special to share with you about Jennifer. Can I call you for a minute? And even if they don't have an iPhone or
FaceTime, Skype,
Skype. A lot of people have these technologies they don't even know they have, and you do it, and we've actually reduced the amount of time in the medical field where a parent actually has to come in and bring their infected kid who's got the flu into our waiting room full of other kids. We don't even want them there. But so just using the technology, but basing it on the the old traditional, hey, have you got 2 minutes to chat?
I get tons of emails, from school, from teachers, and tons of automated crap out there too. That I'll tell you right now as a parent, that pisses me off. I cannot stand when I get an automated, message, whether it's from on Messenger, whether it's in email, and I'll tell you where the phones. When you get calls from the schools or calls from, and it comes from an area code like from Southern California or Nevada, but it's about my middle school. That just irks me. It loses the sense of community that way. It feels like it's been sold out. Back to that though. You guys as educators have the hardest job, right? Because we're dealing with parents, and parents are people, and people are crazy, right? Like it's just. There's so many people that shouldn't be parents, so many people that really aren't raising children right, and they're not engaged, they're not watching, they're not, and you're never going to get them. I mean, that's just kind of the bottom line. There's just going to be those people. So how do you go after those ones, right? How do you try to hook them? I think the video thing is a brilliant thing, and rather than directly targeting certain parents, but making like a summary of today's events, a 30-second. Set your iPhone up on a little tripod in front of you. Hey, today we did this. In our classroom we did this. And you do something a minute or less, making it happy, showcasing what the kids did today, and leave it like that as a branch kind of to all of them. Because for me, I still am hesitant to open emails, even to find out if it was an automated one or not, just because I don't have the time. I know I'm kind of
Yeah.
that punk dad too. But my kids are all, you know, straight A's for them, and I'm on coast. I'm a
But
lucky guy.
we're receiving 150 emails a day as an
Right.
average US internet user.
Right.
But they want video.
Right. We don't want to read, we want to be told, you know, and that's all, even in marketing as well too. I mean, we want someone to be told, you know, we want the video to tell us what we want to ask without having to ask. We're lazy, you know, and everything is speed. So if you can do like a summary video, I think that would kind of help.
Have you seen the video of the teacher that does a personalized handshake
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
of each student?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Yeah, it goes back to recognition, and it goes back to the parents watching you. Like, I met Matt, didn't know Matt from Wall, didn't know he had this job here. I met him coaching his son, but then I met him at the Maker Fair in San Mateo, and his colleagues. And it was just like, oh, Matt's got a whole different dimension to him that I didn't know. And we started getting to know each other a little bit. And then when parents don't ever acknowledge, well, I tell my son, thank the coach, thank the assistant coach. They're volunteers. You may not like them, they may drive you hard, but recognize that they showed up. So I'd say it's both ways. You've got to put yourself out there and say, hey, little Johnny, love him, look at him with that bright smile, like a light bulb at Christmas, that's great. Then the parents will start to break down the wall and say, maybe I should get to know you better. Because the email, the text, the Skype, it's driving everybody crazy. And frankly, you get lost in the sauce of why. I mean, how do you stand out? How do you as a teacher stand out with that parent?
Okay, we have time for probably 2 more questions. We'll start this one.
So related to that, middle school kids are not digital natives. People think they are, they really aren't. They don't know how to use it appropriately, so we need to instruct them a lot around that. And this is going to sound really old school, but do they need to know how to appropriately compose?
Correct, yes.
Respond to
Yes.
emails?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It'll kill their opportunities in the workplace.
Oh, yeah.
So the same way, I actually had to teach my students in high school how to write thank you notes. I had to draw the envelope up on the board because I had some assistants that didn't know how to address an envelope. She did center a line. I was like, geez, really? Do I need to? Okay. So yeah, they need to learn all of that stuff.
The cultural divide that we feel right now in the world is only being propagated more by the tech divide, right? The tech divide is fueling this cultural divide because the young kids and the young peeps that are all up with tech are tired of slowing down for the past, right? I mean, we have the ability to run, I mean, and really go faster, but we're still kind of being held back. You know, my kids have had an iPhone since the very first generation. My youngest daughter had it when she was 5 years old. You know how much fluff that I got for that? Oh, why does she have an iPhone? Are you kidding me? Why does she not? I mean, one, because I can track my kids wherever they are, you know, which is nice to see exactly where they are. But the big thing was that it's familiar for them, so that when they become, you know, into a workforce, you know, that nothing is foreign to them. You know, my kids can all produce videos and movies and music and create their sounds. I mean, they're digitally advanced because of what I do at home. You know, but I've also allowed that to happen in their life so that they're not suppressed for their own future, right? And a lot of it, the bucking of the system of tech is because we don't understand it, right? So if we don't understand it, we have to if we're going to be, you know, giving our kids the proper tools for the future.
I have 2 middle schoolers, and I have an amazing wife. She's on the board of the CBT. When I come home, I work in Los Angeles, so there's 20 old school pieces of paper, and they're thank you notes and cards to get our 4 boys to have that gratitude, the thank you note, the dear, and then what did you receive, how did you feel, why do you want to recognize for it, and then mail it. So I think too often technology tends to be the solution, but it's the thought of what are you going to say, who are you going to say it, and how are you going to express yourself. And that's great for a business-to-business email, it's great for a memo, it's great for a job application, it's great to build character, so those middle schoolers know that sometimes it's old school. You got to just do that little handwritten note to make that special impression.
And I also want to add too on the to your question. The time and place, it's tough. You want to let kids know that to use an abbreviation like seriously, an SRSLY is maybe fine in a text message, but it's not. It's not when you're writing a letter. You know, emojis are great and all those things are appropriate, but there is it won't cut mustard if you're writing a letter to your boss and you start using IMHO and all LOL and all that other stuff, which may be second nature to them because that's the world they're growing up in. So I think it's really important that they know that distinction. Writing on actual paper is great for that. But anyway.
I got a degree in business, and one of the lessons made us roll our eyes was how to write a business letter. And there were multiple formats. And now they only use one format out of all of them, and I recycled that book many years ago. But we cannot assume that because they know how to push buttons, they understand context, they understand manners, they understand when it's appropriate to swear and not to swear. They don't know until somebody teaches them. So we assume they know a lot, and we know they know practically nothing. So yeah, they need all of that context, thought process around how to communicate in different environments.
What was the thing that you said? You said something about the thirst for wanting to learn. Well, you had like a nice little two-word thing for it.
Intellectual curiosity.
That's it, intellectual curiosity. So that I think is such a huge core. You know, I mean, it's not the focus of understanding one thing, but all things, right? You want to really kind of stimulate them to not know a lot about a little, but to know a little about a lot. And because there's so many different things, and we're so growing that you have to kind of keep that curiosity, hungry.
We have one more question back here.
Hi. In the school system, oftentimes this is a very typical pose of our students. So we were kind of wondering, what do you guys see in the workforce around responsible cell phone use? And do you have any kind of recommendations on how to motivate students to kind of step away? Because taking it away, of course, causes anxiety and becomes a bigger issue about ownership and rights and whether they have the right to have it.
Tough crap. I mean, really? I mean, they walk into your home, your classroom, you own them, you are the boss. I have parents and executives that have cell phone jail. They make jail boxes. They check in the jail. It's in jail. You need to think. You need to listen reflectively. You need to really respect what I'm trying to do today. And that is not for, it's for emergencies, and it's for our break, maybe. But absolutely don't let this creep into your ecosystem, your world, because all you're doing is endorsing bad behavior.
And I have to add to that too. We have, when we're doing meetings with doctors, and these are very serious meetings, mortality, morbidity, we're talking about why a patient died, why, what we could have done better. We'll have a bunch of very busy doctors and very engaged, and they'll come in and they'll do this. So some of our CEOs now at our various affiliates from Northern California remember those old things you hang in your closet and all the shoes go in? So they'll take one of those and they number them 1 to 45, and they tell these doctors, these are brain surgeons, these are transplant doctors, if you walk in this room, you deposit your device in that thing, and you listen, because otherwise you're not here. So
I'm on the executive board of the Santa Rosa Chamber, so it's like every muckety-muck you can imagine. And as a woman of color in technology, I stick out like a sore thumb. But they don't turn their phones off, which pisses me off, because I'm like, I know that you are the chairman of the board for whatchamacallit, but you can still be polite and turn your vibrate off, turn your volume off. So they weren't taught manners around cell phones. So this is going to take us 20 plus years of teaching manners. So with students, because I teach of all ages, but a lot of them are professional, what I found with my high schoolers, that I had that one kid that was super smart, that was always engaged and always talking, and I would say, rather than argue with him, because occasionally it got into, who's smarter, but I said, that's a great idea, prove me wrong. Pick up your phone and find out who the richest man in the world was. They had just changed like that day or the day before. So I had old stats and he had new stats, and you're right. Wow, I was wrong. So I engaged them because I can't ban phones in technology classes. So it becomes a research tool. They don't know, or they ask me a question and I don't have all the answers. So I will engage those students, those that are a little faster than everybody else, to go research for me. So I'm often giving them tasks around the room, and then teaching them to, okay, when you're done, turn your phone over. So even adults don't have good behavior. And adults are much worse than students. And when adults say, I go, well, or do you do that? Yeah, they do. So it's not a solved problem, but I really like Sutter's approach to the shoe hanger, because a lot of people in business, they use their phones less than students do. They're less rude about it. But sometimes if nobody knows how to turn their phone off, it's just as disruptive as a 15-year-old. So it's not perfect in the work world. We're having to teach these, and I give you the power, if you were a mom and or a teacher, to mom them.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, teachers, parents, I mean, you're the same, right? You know what I mean? And how do you get the etiquette of phone use? You know what I mean? It's such a double sword for me because I preach tech, like I don't ever want to take away, but there's still that responsibility of respect, right? And that should lie with the parents, but again, you guys are the parents, so.
I have said in front of a room of students that were really, it had gone too far. And I finally just stood there and I waited. And I just waited and I waited and I waited. And it was really quiet and I said, do you guys realize that public speaking is the #1 fear?
Yeah.
And I get up here every single day and I open myself up and you guys are staring at me and I feel awkward. And then when you're not looking at me, it hurts my feelings. And not only do I talk a lot about my own failures, because they're really surprised when you see somebody that's successful or everybody thinks you have it together. When you talk about failure, that makes it okay to fail. But I talk about my feelings and I talk about how it makes me feel. And I've only had to do it once. And after that, the students really realized that I was a person and that they liked me and that they were hurting my feelings.
Yeah, showing your vulnerability.
Rather than it's a respect thing, I was like, and I opened up and they were like, ooh. And they felt bad, and there was a level of respect there. I just find the more honest I am with my students of any age, the more they respect me because they recognize I'm respecting them by being honest.
That's a huge line to use, right? I mean, it hurts my feelings. You know, if I'm giving my energy, you know, to you, I want you to take it. So I mean,
and if you can't guilt them into it, make it a condition of employment, like leave your phone at the door.
Oh yeah, we on different films.
Otherwise, you're fired.
We got. I get to work on different film sets here and there, and a friend of mine who lives here in the industry, or lives here in the area and works in the industry. He's an animal handler, and we provide animals to the movie and TV film arena. And there was a 4-H goat from Sebastopol that we used in this Jurassic Park thing, and you know, and then some people were so excited. You want to get everybody happy, so you take a couple pictures, a couple videos of this goat on the set of a movie. But then, you know, you get a call at 9 o'clock in the morning next morning from a law firm in New York, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, it's oops. So there's serious consequences that can come from overphone use. But I think it's the respect thing that's really the most important. Is that, you know, if you respect the teacher, you know, and if you're not paying attention, that's the lack of respect. But it's really that emotional weight that you have to bear the responsibility of that should be the parents. But as we know, the kids are all ours, and we are all their parents. So do your best with it.
So we're going to stop right here. We'd like to thank the panel once again. So we'll take a short break. Some of them may be able to stick around for a few minutes. Some of them have to leave. If you have specific questions and you want to come up and talk to somebody, if they have some time. If not, we told them it was going to be till 10, so I know some of them have other appointments, so if they have to leave. But if you have to use the restroom or go, we'll come back here in about 10 minutes. So at 10:10, we'll start up again.
Hey Matt, just one thought I want to leave you with. Maya Angelou said, people will always forget what you said. They will always forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So that is words to live by.
Thanks.
I